G'day, my name's Jake Chandler and I'm a 36-year-old proud father to my daughter Vivian and husband to my beautiful wife Gemma. We farm in southern New South Wales and on the 5th of March 2023 I chose to walk away from alcohol. What I love about living on the land is the absolute wide open skies, complete diversity. You've just got to take every day as it comes. I absolutely had a blessed early childhood. My father's an ag teacher, my mum was a nurse, so we had everything in our backyard from chooks and pigs and sheep and cattle, and fell in love with being outdoors. During my high school years, my parents separated and we went through what you'd call quite a challenging divorce. It's something that I've reflected a lot on recently. But that made it really tough for me and my two sisters as well. Alcohol came into my life for one of two reasons. As a sort of 16, 17-year-old, when I started exploring who I am. I'd gone through those teenage years and started seeking out adrenaline and thrill chasing. And so after my high school years, I just went, let's go on an adventure, let's go absolutely mad. And so I was really lucky to find a position on a Northern Territory cattle station called Tipperary. No one knew me, and that's a unique opportunity in the bush, is to introduce yourself to a new community and work out who you want to be and why. What I loved about my time in the Northern Territory and working as a jackaroo, I prefer to call it a ringer, is I had a full experience. It was a wild adventure where we just had to throw our trust and faith in the wind every day. Finished year 12, had a gap year, and then jumped straight into uni back in Armidale. I'm an all or nothing kind of guy, so whenever they said there was a party, I had to be there. So 4 years of an incredibly intense social life where drinking was the rocket fuel that brought us all together to celebrate, which seems a funny word in reflection. It just really amplified my rodeo lifestyle in the Northern Territory, and I was able to do it any night of the week for 4 years straight. I was the bloke at college, one of the blokes at college, that used to walk around and use my leadership skills and coerce others into drinking. You know, what are you missing out on if you don't come and get on the rocket fuel with us and get on the punch? I suppose the scary part for me is when alcohol started becoming an escape mechanism. You know, when things were going bad, I was feeling a bit stressed, I'd had an injury at work or something like that. To use alcohol as a band-aid to try and hide from the reality, because I didn't have the tools as a young man to deal with myself. I couldn't go home and look myself in the mirror. It was just really sad that I never learnt how to be comfortable in my own skin. 99% of people that I went to college with or played rugby with or went rodeo on, we all drank. But at that time, there was no alternative. The judgment was absolutely fierce, including myself. I used to be that guy and judge other people. After college, I moved into a mining career. I had a pretty strong desire there to work for the biggest company in the world, and I managed to pull that off. And going straight from a pretty intense social culture at college, I thought I'd walk into something that was really corporate driven and career changing and put a foundation stone in for the rest of my life. I found I was in a pretty similar circumstance. Work hard, play hard. There's nothing that sums up mining better than that. And we might have worked week on, week off, but that week off was just heavy playing, and we drank a lot. During my mining career, I was lucky enough to meet my beautiful wife, Gemma. We've now been married for nearly 4 years. And our shared vision and dreams that brought us together is that we've always wanted to be farmers. We've always wanted to do that together. That's what we base our love on. We found the courage to pick up the phone and ring Gem's mum and dad and have the conversation whether they were open to succession planning and whether there was availability for us to transition home to the farm and find our way out here. Yeah, there are some challenges that come with living on the land. We carry the weight of incredible economic pressure on our shoulders just to make ends meet. So while I love life on the land and the abundance that it brings, it also comes with plenty of challenges. So here I was, moved home onto the family farm with the in-laws, and I was still battling a little bit with accepting that and that I'd been welcomed and embraced, and trying to still work out who I was in the world. Rugby was my chosen thing, and the skills that I had at the time was to, let's get out there and play a bit of contact sport and get the aggression out on weekends. The challenge and the catch with being in a small country town playing rugby or playing sport is the drinking that comes with it. I was usually the first one at the bar and one of the last ones to leave. I'm a moth, and if the light's still on, I want to be a part of it. And I had to have something in my hand. I have a lot of trouble having an empty hand still to this day. And so that led me down this trap of, not being sure of who I am as part of this family farm, and I've just sort of been gifted this thing that I probably don't quite deserve, and I wasn't accepting that. Pretty irritable, and I got some fear and anger creeping back in. So I went to drinking, and I'd play rugby every weekend, but here I was making bad decisions. Had a skinful on a bus trip on the way home from a rugby match. Got back to the pub and sort of woke up to myself, took a deep breath and said I actually should be at home with my now wife. It's like, I've already had, 10 schooners with the boys, but I'm feeling guilty. And I jumped behind the wheel of a car. And I'm not saying that's the first time I've done it. I did it a lot, and I'm really proud that I got caught that night. The thing that I'm disgusted with in myself is that one of the young fellas pulled me out of that car that night and said, challenged me and asked me, what am I doing with my life? And I told him to piss off, because I was going home to my wife, and that was what a husband should do. It's just crazy to look back on and think that, I could have crashed that car, could have killed someone, could have done a many number of things, and none of them made me a better person, let alone a better husband. I had to look square down the barrel in the mirror after the police drove me home 30 minutes at 3 o'clock in the morning, out of town through the fog, get into bed with my now wife, and explain to her the next morning when we woke up that I made that choice. I've never felt more lonely or depressed in my life, but for me, that was the first realization in my life that I couldn't keep making bad choices and get away with it. It's the first time in my life I woke up that there's a choice every time you put a drink to your mouth, and there's also a choice to never do that again. That's the turning point for me, was my drink driving incident, where I started watching the charity Sober in the Country. I just wish I'd seen it sooner. It was late 2023, just went in for a physio checkup. She noticed and pointed out a mole on my back, right shoulder blade, and she just recommended to go and get it looked at. I got the courage and went and got a skin check from a specialist, and as soon as he saw it, he said, that's a bad one, Jake. 7 days later, my phone rang, and rang 2 or 3 times by this doctor's office number. So I sort of felt obliged to answer it, and yeah, he confirmed that day that it was melanoma. It was quite aggressive and a really rare type. So I said to my wife and daughter, I've got this, I'm an independent bloke, I deal with shit, it'll be right, it's nothing. So I just went over there and they just draw it out with a syringe, pretty simple, right? I jumped back up from the bed, ready to hit the road and go home. We've had surgery, it's all sweet. And he said, you better take a seat. And he told me there on my own, the Tuesday before Easter, that my lymph gland was positive. So it was riddled with melanoma. So all of a sudden I've gone from a guy thinking I was pretty bulletproof, privileged, 36-year-old white fella in Australia. I'm now staring down the barrel of stage 3B cancer, which has possible death sentences. But that for me was an absolute wake-up call. The single best thing that's ever happened in my life, because it made me realise that life's worth living. And I love the saying that every man lives 2 lives, and the second one begins when he finds out he has only one.
The way he's willing to put his story out to other people, whether it's through social media or just through conversations that he's having with other people. Talking to the guys from his footy club about his drink driving experience, and his experience with sobriety and the great things that that's brought to his life. I mean, that's hugely vulnerable to go out into the community and talk about that kind of stuff that a lot of people are pretty uncomfortable talking about, really. So yeah, he's very brave, very brave.
Jake told me about his health issues and his struggles and his sobriety. It's at that point I thought I would go out and support him by going along with him in the journey too. Although I wasn't a big drinker myself, I've always found it hard sometimes in social settings that people very much encourage everyone to have as much to drink as possible, and it's just nice to be able to say no and then be accepted for it.
It was really interesting listening to Shannon's story and reflecting on my own relationship with alcohol. I love the fact that it's not anti-alcohol, because for me, I still love socialising with the boys and being a part of that circle. If they choose to have a beer, that's their choice. And if I choose to have a zero beer, that's my choice as well. But I want them to support me in doing that. And she's changed the world, and it's now the most powerful thing I've ever done in my life, to the point where I'm ready to share it with everyone.
The impact of Jake's story on my life, following him in his footsteps of giving up alcohol and then listening to the message of Sober in the Country, this has really shown me I didn't need to have a rock bottom. I just needed to change for myself, for my own personal growth, to make better decisions for my life.
For Jake, the bush tribe that he found through Shan, that's been really key. In a lot of ways, it gives him other people and a community to talk to about sobriety and the things he might be finding challenging, or sharing the positive things about it.
Anyone who's made that choice to walk away from an addiction is the hardest thing they've probably ever done in their life. But the bush tribe provides this safe landing space where you can just find your feet gently. You can have a look at how a few other people are doing it. And it's significantly changed my life, and I plan on staying this way forever. I never thought this would happen to me. I want to acknowledge that it's early days for me in my alcohol-free journey. I'm currently 14 months since my last drink, and I plan on never drinking again for the rest of my life. And that's something that I'm pretty proud of and no one can ever take away from me. I'd also like to acknowledge that I'm now declared 12 months cancer-free, and that's something that everyone can talk about because I'm bloody proud of it, and it's never coming back.